ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 2 of the series What If Quirkless Deku Became a Player with the Dragon System. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Mom, I am leaving, Izuku said as he grabbed the door handle. All right then, be careful, Sonia replied, to which Izuku nodded his head and then left his house. Currently, Izuku was going to nearby shop to get some grocery for his mother. Today is a nice day, he said to himself before opening up his stats, which he had upgraded a lot since the last 3 years when he ascended to the rank of the Dragon King. Status: Name: Izuku. Race: Dragon King. Title: Dragon King of Destruction. LVL: 321. HP: 2497, 835 2497, 835. MP: 2141, 170 21, 41 170. Strength: 435. Agility: 399. Endurance: 430. Vitality: 427. Intelligence: 411. Sen: 431. AP: 0. For the last 3 years, Izuku had reduced his training a little so that he can spend more time with his mother, who had now opened up a new martial art coaching center for kendo with the help of the money she saved, along with the money Izuku had in the system, since he used to mostly buy only potions rather than any expensive weapons. Izuku was happy that his mother was happy with her new profession. Izuku had many run-outs with Toshinori also, since that man lived nearby and used to walk a lot. Despite Izuku's many attempts to shoo him off using his cold personality, he was very determined. But at least a small bond was established between both of them, since they used to meet each other almost regularly for 3 years straight. He had also invited Izuku home 2 to 3 times, but Izuku refused it by bluntly saying he felt uncomfortable in someone else. Izuku sighed as he paid for the grocery that he bought before collecting all of them in a cloth bag, and then walked out of the store while listening to music on his phone. As he was passing through the bridge, his instinct kicked in and he jumped to the left, barely dodging the incoming slime. A strong brat, but in the long run, you will be good for me, so why don't you be a good boy and come to me? The slime villain said with a twisted smile as Izuku looked at him with disgust before saying, "Yeah, why don't you stop being a kidnapper and quietly go to the jail?" The slime villain got annoyed after hearing that. "You are a cheesy one, aren't you?" he said before jumping on Izuku, who easily dodged him while messaging something on his phone. "And done. Now that my mom knows that I will be a little late, I will bring you to your rightful place," Izuku said as he put his phone back into the pocket. He has a slimy body, which of course means that physical attacks are useless against him, but I have other methods too, Izuku thought as he took a deep breath before exhaling a large amount of fire, which surprised the villain and then burnt him. His painful scream echoed below the bridge as the smoke from fire filled his vision, but since Izuku had trained his other senses very well, he knew the exact position of the slime villain, and by looking at his fixed position, he had defeated the villain. Izuku cleared the smoke by swinging his arm with a bit of his strength and then walked forward towards the slime villain before sealing off into a plastic bottle so that he can't escape. As he was just closing the cap, his head snapped towards the vent from where he could hear someone coming. Whoosh! Along with a huge air pressure came out a bulk tall man with blonde hair. Izuku's eye widened in shock as he recognized the person standing in front of him. It was none other than the current #1 hero and the symbol of peace, All Might. Haha. No fear. Why? Because I am here. All Might gave his usual catchphrase before looking around for the slime villain. Izuku raised his hand, which had the bottle containing the slime villain, making All Might's eye widen for a moment before they returned to normal. Never expected to see him here, All Might thought as he moved forward towards Izuku before speaking. "Young man, thank you for capturing the villain for me. You must have a very strong will and quirk." Izuku nodded at his word before saying, "Yes, All Might, but it was too easy to catch him. Regardless of that, can you please give me an autograph of yours?" Izuku pulled out the notebook from the inventory, surprising All Might before giving him the notebook to do his sign. Izuku looked at All Might with amazement as All Might signed in the notebook given by Izuku. "What is your name, young one?" All Might asked, to which Izuku introduced himself politely, making All Might's sweat drop in his mind. Seriously, in front of my weak form he was so cold, and now he is so polite and excited, he thought before giving the notebook back to Izuku, who took it with stars in his eyes. "Well now then, young Izuku. I need to deliver this to the police station. I will see you later then," All Might said before launching into the sky with a very strong pressure, while Izuku saw this with a smile on his face before starting to walk back towards his house. But unfortunately, the problem seems to follow him everywhere as he was walking towards his home. A large explosion took his attention, which came from his neighborhood. Izuku's eye widened as he thought about his mother. He immediately used his max speed and reached the site of explosion in a second with so much speed that will put even fighter jets to shame. Upon reaching there, he sighed in relief as he saw that the explosion was 2 streets away from his house. He looked forward and found a villain group of 3 villains, with one having a fire quirk, second having a metal quirk, and the last one having an enlargement quirk. Izuku looked towards the hero side to only found 2 heroes. First was Backdraft and the second was Kamu Woods, but they both were failing to stop the villain group. Izuku started to scan the crowd and found Toshinori in the back with a frustrating look on his face. Izuku also spotted several school kids watching the scene from the sidelines. Izuku narrowed his eyes on the villain before using his speed to appear behind the fire villain in a blink of an eye. "You have caused enough trouble for today," Izuku simply said before knocking him out and then threw him towards the villain. The other 2 villains quickly turned towards him with a shocked look on his face. The same could be said with the crowd, as they also were looking with surprised faces to see a boy face 3 villains alone. "Die, kid," the enlargement villain said, but he suddenly froze in mid-air as Izuku extended his hand towards him to freeze him with his telekinesis. Izuku turned his attention towards the last one, who was trying to escape, but unfortunately Izuku saw him. "Where are you going?" he said before vanishing from the sight and then appearing behind the steel villain, who froze in shock as he felt Izuku behind him. "Time to sleep" was the last thing he heard before his vision became black. Izuku turned towards the enlargement villain, which had already been captured by Kamu Woods. Everyone started to clap for Izuku's bravery and heroic deed as Izuku chuckled before throwing the last villain towards Kamu Wood. Kamu Wood started to approach Izuku, but since Izuku already knew what was gonna happen, he used his speed to vanish from there, surprising Kamu Woods as he looked around to find Izuku. On the other hand, Toshinori looked in a little surprise as he saw a lone teenager handling 3 villains. "I could have also done that alone," a ash-blonde kid said as grumbled with an annoyed expression on his face. Beside him was standing a green-haired girl who just gave the blonde-haired boy an unamused look before walking away, making the ash-blonde kid curse under his breath before following the green-haired girl. On the other hand, Izuku sighed in relief as he successfully escaped a nagging session from a pro hero. Izuku then walked inside his house before announcing his presence. "I am home." He walked inside only to find his mother sitting with an angry face along with an unknown guy who was grabbing her chin. Izuku's eyes widened for a moment before they became a menacing glare as he full-on blowed the stranger with his murderous intent, which was so much that the stranger froze immediately with his eye widened in fear as sweat rolled from his forehead. "What do you think you are doing?" Izuku asked with a very dangerous voice as he walked forward towards the man. But before Izuku could send the guy to afterlife, his mother intervened by stopping Izuku, making him turn towards her with a very cold look on his face. "Calm down, Izuku, even though this trash deserves torture, but we need to proceed through law. So PLS call the police," Sonya said while giving a very cold glare to the unknown man who was shaking. Izuku's eyes had changed into his draconic one. He clenched his fist so tight that the juice can in his hand exploded into pieces. Izuku slowly nodded as he took a deep breath to calm his anger down before pulling out his phone and called police by saying that there was a case of harassment. After ending the call, he looked towards the unknown person who touched his mother with a menacing look. Currently, Sonya was holding the person with a sword to his neck. Izuku grabbed him by his neck even before either of them could react and lifted him up. "Do you have anything to say before I send you to coma?" he asked in a dangerous voice which was enough to make the man wet. Sonya gave a look of disgust at this before saying, "Go outside. I don't want the house to get destroyed, Izu, and please hold back a little." Izuku nodded at her before vanishing from there along with the man. After a few minutes, both police and Izuku arrived at the same time. Detective Tsukochi, who was with the police team, was shocked to see the condition of the man. The man was looking like someone smashed him into an iron wall for 100 times before smashing into the ground for the same no of time. Izuku dopped the man in front of the police officers, who quickly started to check his condition and sighed in relief when found out that he was still alive. Izuku looked at Detective Tsukochi with a very cold look, making him flinch. "Mom is inside," Detective Izuku simply said before walking inside the house, while Detective merely nodded before following Izuku inside the house where Sonya was peacefully making tea. "Oh, you are back, and you too, Detective. Please take a seat on the couch," Sonya said as she noticed both Izuku and Tsukochi enter the house. After serving the tea, she also sat down beside Izuku while Tsukochi sat down on the opposite couch with a notepad in his hand. "So, Miss Sonya, can you please explain what exactly happened from the start?" he asked. "Well, that pervert came to my house saying that his child wanted to join my academy, so I invited him inside so we can talk peacefully in the living room. But when we sat to talk, he slowly started to close the distance between us and then suddenly grabbed my chin while I was telling him about the classes. I was about to retaliate, but Izuku came in suddenly, and after that you can imagine what happened by seeing his condition." Sonya finished her explanation with a smile. Tsukochi noted everything down with sweat rolling down his forehead. Her son is very dangerous was a thing that was currently going on in his mind. After getting statement from both Izuku and Sonya and then telling Izuku that he should hold back a little, Tsukochi left. "Well, that was something," Sonya said, to which Izuku nodded before standing up and then said, "I will be going to my room, then need to prepare for you today entrance exam, which is in 2 months. Aizu, the breakfast is ready. Come downstairs fast." Sonya called out to her son, who was currently in his room getting dressed up in a tracksuit. "Today is the day," Izuku mumbled to himself as he checked himself in the mirror. Today was one of the most important day in his life because today was none other than the U-Day entrance exam, which Izuku had hoped to clear and join the U-Day since he was a kid. Izuku gave a smile to himself before walking downstairs to have breakfast. "So, how are you feeling today, Aizu? Excited? Nervous?" Sonya asked as she sat down with her son in the chair to eat the breakfast. "I am super excited for today, Mom," Izuku replied as he ate the breakfast, which was bread and butter along with orange juice. "Good. You don't need to be nervous since you have prepared very well for the exam, and remember to not be reckless during the practical exam." "All right," she said in a serious tone, making Izuku chuckle to himself nervously before nodding. After eating the dinner and getting everything that was needed for the exam, Izuku stood in front of his house's main door along with his mother. After locking their house, both of them got into the car and Sonya started to drive the car towards the direction of U.A Academy. "Time to show the world that I am here. This is gonna be my first step toward becoming the greatest hero," Izuku thought as he looked outside the window while his mom drove. After driving for 20 minutes, they finally reached U.A. Izuku exited the car and looked at the front with his red eyes shining brightly as he looked at his dream school. "Good luck, Aizu, and make sure to show everyone that you are aiming for the top," Sonya said before giving a forehead kiss to Izuku, who blushed a bit in embarrassment as he saw several students looking at both of them. But he ignored them and forced the embarrassment into the back of his mind before giving a determined look to his mom, who smiled at Izuku before waving goodbye, which was returned by Izuku. After Sonya left, Izuku once again glanced at the entire school, but before he could move, "Stay out of my way, extra," a rude and somewhat angry voice came from behind him. He turned backwards and saw an ash-blonde kid coming with an angry expression on his face, and Izuku already got annoyed by just looking at his face. Izuku didn't move from his place even when the ash-blonde repeated himself, which made the kid more angry, and he removed his hand from the pocket and showed it to Izuku. Small explosions started to pop in his hand. Izuku just stared blankly at the explosion in his hand, which the kid was using to threaten him. "Pathetic," Izuku said on the blonde's face, making him more angry. "You monster, I will finish you," the ash blonde said before launching an explosion at Izuku, and when it appeared to land, the blonde kid named Katsuki Bakugo smirked. Still pathetic, Bakugo's eye widened as he heard a voice from behind, making him immediately turn his head back, and was in a little shock as he saw Izuku completely fine with a bored look on his face. "Curse you." Bakugo shouted and was about to launch another explosion but was stopped by a green-haired girl who used her telekinesis quirk on him to stop him from causing another explosion. "What are you doing, Kitsuki? Don't you remember Aunt Mitsuki told you to keep your anger down?" the green-haired girl named Izumi Yagi said. Bakugo grumbled and cursed under his breath as Izumi released him. Bakugo gave one last glare to Izuku, who ignored him completely and looked towards Izumi, who approached Izuki before bowing down. "I am sorry for my friend. He has a very short temper," Izumi said, to which Izuku nodded before walking towards the Udota building and was quickly followed by Izumi, who was interested in Izuku as she had saw how Izuku had vanished from one place and had appeared behind Bakugo in an instant. She was sure that Izuku had a speed quirk which made him so fast. After entering a large hall where other candidates were also sitting and talking with each other, Izuku looked at his admit card and then looked for his seat. After finding his seat, he sat down and waited for the written exam to start, which started soon enough as two pro heroes Ectoplasm and Snipe entered the hall and told the students to take their seats before distributing the answer sheets and questions. Izuku scanned through the whole question paper and found it very easy. As soon as the bell rang, he instantly started to answer every question quickly and finished a 3-hour paper in 45 minutes. He stood up from his seat, earning the attention of Ectoplasm, Snipe, and several students. "I have answered all the questions, sir, and would like to submit my answer sheet," he said to Snipe, who looked at him skeptically before saying, "Are you sure you don't want to recheck?" Izuku shook his head and gave the answer sheet to Snipe, who took it before telling Izuku to head over to another hall. As Izuku walked out of the hall, he found several students looking at him with disbelief or mocking expression, but he ignored them and walked towards the next hall, which Snipe told him about. After waiting for 2 more hours, few students started to arrive in the hall and started to take their seat. Izuku glanced at his neighboring seat and wondered who his neighbor would be, but soon sighed in annoyance as he saw that Bakugo sitting a seat away from me. Bakugo gave him a menacing glare with some small explosions still popping into his hands, but Izuku ignored him and turned him attention towards the stage. Soon someone came and sat between him and Bakugo. He turned his head and found out that it was Izumi. Izumi gave a smile to Izuku, who looked at her for a moment before turning his attention back to the stage, while Izumi's sweat dropped a bit seeing Izuku's cold personality. Soon, President MIC entered the stage and started to explain the practical exam while demanding some type of response from the audience in between. But Izuku completely ignored him and looked at the pamphlet which was given to them. The pamphlet contained complete information regarding the practical exam that was about to happen. Few minutes later, President MIC was interrupted by a glasses boy who said to him something, but Izuku ignored it too. The boy then turned towards Izuku and was about to say something, but Izuku shot him a death glare, making him shut up his mouth and sit down back, confusing many people. After the complete explanation, President MIC told the students to check their battle center, and Izuku found out that he was in Battle Center B. After that, everyone headed outside to board the bus that will take them to their battle center. Izuku took the corner seat and started to look outside the window while ignoring whatever was happening inside the bus. But in between the ride, he glanced towards his neighboring seat and found out that an orange-haired girl sitting while talking to another girl. Izuku returned his gaze back to the window. Izuku then directed his attention towards the large gate that they were approaching. After reaching the battle center, everyone left the bus and stood in front of the large gate. Some of the students were talking to each other. Some were stretching and warming up for the test. Izuku just silently stood there while his eyes scanned each and every one of them with a very calculating look. "All right, everyone. I hope you all are ready, because here we go." President MIC yelled as the gate opened, but no one moved, thinking that there would be a proper countdown. Well, everyone except for our MC, who instantly rushed inside with such a speed that nobody even saw him move except for the orange-haired girl who was looking at Izuku's direction before he vanished, confusing her. "What are you all waiting for? There is no countdown in the real world. One of the examinee has already scored 15 points," President MIC yelled, shocking everyone before they ran inside only to see destroyed parts of robots everywhere. Meanwhile, Izuku, who was blurring through the streets and smashing the villains with his raw strength along, had a very bored look on his face. "I thought you today would have something more challenging, but all of these are just simple toys," he said to himself as he continued to destroy the robots. In the observation room, Interesting students this year, man with messy black hair said in a very tired voice while looking at the different screens which showed different students who were giving the practical exam. Yeah, this year is much better than the previous one, another teacher named Vlad King said while rubbing his chin. The teacher then started to talk about different approaches taken by students while watching each of them. So, who is on the top, Nezu? Aizawa asked while keeping his gaze locked at the different monitors. Nezu looked at Aizawa for a moment before opening his tablet to check the ranking. The name of the student at the top is Izuku Shinon with a score of 84 points, Nezu said, shocking everyone since it has been only 5 minutes since the exam started. Can you show us the student, Nezu? All Might asked. Nezu nodded before pressing a button and a large screen appeared showing Izuku destroying robots easily while yawning. He is not even taking the exam seriously, Snipe said as he looked at the bored expression on Izuku's face. His quirk should be a strength one by seeing how he is destroying robots with just punches or kicks, Midnight said, to which Nezu shook his head. No, his quirk is actually telekinesis, not any strength or physical enhancement, one, Nezu said, surprising everyone including All Might since he thought that Izuku had a physical enhancement quirk. Which means that he is destroying the robots only by using, Vlad King said with wide eyes while looking at Izuku. His raw strength. He sure does have a very extraordinary physical strength, Aizawa said as he narrowed his eyes on Izuku. But the real test starts now, ha ha ha. Nezu said while laughing like a maniac before pressing a large button. With Izuku. Izuku was currently helping other participants since he had scored more than enough points to get into the hero course, but suddenly, the whole fake city started to rumble, making everyone turn towards the source of the noise. There, standing even taller than the buildings, was the zero-pointer. Everyone started to run away from the zero-pointer with fear on their faces after seeing its sheer size. Izuku stood in his place eyeing everyone with a look of disgust of faces as nobody noticed that someone was stuck in the rubble. Due to his exceptional senses, he was easily able to sense her under the rubble and he could also hear her cry for help, but since everyone was busy on running, no one bothered to hear her cry or ignored it. And they want to be hero, Izuku said under his breath before running towards the rubble while others who were running away thought that he was crazy. Izuku quickly picked the rubble and found a brown-haired girl with a round face. The girl looked at Izuku with little tears in her eyes before thanking him. Izuku gave her a smile before lifting her since she had sprained her ankle and started to run away, but the zero-pointer was closing in. Izuku could of course just use his speed to practically teleport to the entrance, but he decided to teach this robot a lesson. So when he found the orange-haired girl coming towards them, "I am here to help," she said upon arriving. Izuku nodded at her before giving her the girl and then said, "Go on." The orange-haired girl looked at him with a confused expression. "You are not coming?" she asked with a little fear in her voice. Izuku shook his head before gesturing her to run away. The orange-haired girl reluctantly nodded before running away. Izuku looked at the robot with a smirk before jumping at the robot with a huge force, creating a small crater beneath him. "Go to hell!" Izuku yelled before using his raw strength to punch the robot in its head. The power behind his punch instantly obliterated the entire robot's head, and then with some loud explosions, it fell down while everyone stared wide-eyed at what Izuku had done. Izuku swiftly landed back on his feet with a loud noise, and then looked at others with cold eyes, making them step back a little. "What kind of people you are?" There was a girl stuck in the rubble crying for help, but still no one helped her. Instead, you all ran away with tails between your legs. "Is that supposed to be the action of someone who wants to be a hero?" Izuku said as he looked at everyone. Everyone except Kendo and the brown-haired girl named Uraraka looked down, with both of them staring at Izuku with wide eyes, who then started to walk towards them. "Are you fine?" Izuku asked Uraraka, who nodded. "The recovery girl is he. So if there is anyone who is injured, please tell her present." MIC's voice echoed along the fake city, snapping everyone out of their guilty state. Izuku turned towards the gate and saw an elderly woman with a cane walking towards them. "Is someone hurt here?" the elderly woman named Recovery Girl asked, to which Izuku pointed at Uraraka, who nodded. "All right, Sonny, then put her down so that I can heal her," Recovery Girl said, to which Kendo nodded before lowering Uraraka to the ground. After Uraraka comfortably sat down on the ground, the Recovery Girl kissed her, making her glow green, and her ankle healed completely. Well, my injury is all healed up, but I'm feeling kinda tired, Uraraka said in a tired voice, to which Recovery Girl replied, one of the side effects of my quirk. Here, eat this, it will help you in recovering your stamina. Recovery Girl gave some gummies to everyone except for Izuku, who refused, saying that he was fine. In the observation room few minutes before, Nezu, a girl, is trapped under the rubble. Stop the zero-pointer, Toshinori, or All Might said in panicked voice as a screen showed Uraraka trapped under the rubble while the zero-pointer was approaching her. I can't. Looks like the button malfunctioned, Nezu said while trying to switch off the zero-pointer. I'm going, Toshinori said, and was about to enter his muscular form, but Aizawa stopped him, making him look towards Aizawa with a serious face. Look there, Aizawa simply said while pointing towards one of the screen, making everyone look towards the screen only to find that Izuku had saved Uraraka. Good grief. He saved her, Midnight said with a sigh of relief, but her relief was short-lived because soon Snipe pointed at the screen, while saying but why he is going back towards the zero-pointer. Every teacher looked towards the screen with different emotions on their face, with Aizawa narrowing his eyes with a serious expression, All Might getting tense with a little panicked expression, while Nezu watching it with excitement all over his face. Soon, Izuku destroyed the zero-pointer with a single punch to its face, making every teacher's excluding Aizawa and Nezu jaw drop. What the hell, Vlad King said as he watched with wide eyes as the whole zero-pointer obliterated from that single punch. Are we sure that his quirk is telekinesis and not some physical strength one? Snipe asked, to which Nezu just shrugged while looking at the screen. I want him in my class, Nezu, Aizawa simply said, making Nezu nod. With Izuku. Izuku was currently walking towards the exit of the school but saw his only friend among the crowd, so he quickly rushed towards him and called out to him. Shinso, he said, making the purple-haired boy to stop and look towards Izuku. A small smile formed on Shinso's face as he watched Izuku approach him. So, how was your exam? Izuku asked, to which Shinso grinned before giving a thumbs up, making Izuku's smile to broaden. I'm glad about that, Izuku said as they both walked towards the exit. Izuku had met Shinso 2 years ago when he saw Shinso being bullied by some of his classmates. As a soon-to-be hero, he couldn't just stand there and watch a kid being bullied, so he interjected and then beated the hell out of his bullies before helping Shinso. Since both Shinso and Izuku were someone who didn't trust other easily, they had a difficult time in becoming friends, but over the time, both of them started to like each other's company due to both of them facing a kind of unjust in the past. Izuku was very happy when he got to know that Shinso too wanted to become a hero and was more amazed about Shinso's quirk, which was a very powerful one, making Shinso happy that at least someone appreciated his quirk. During that time, Izuku had advised Shinso to upgrade his fighting skills and increase his physical strength since his quirk wasn't a combat one which could become a drawback for him, which Shinso wholeheartedly agreed to. Izuku had also invited Shinso home several times, making Sonya happy that her son had finally gotten a very good friend. Coming back to the present, after separating since their home was on different sides of the city, Izuku used his speed to instantly reach his home, so he could tell his mom about his exam. Izuku was currently in his room reading the different news on the web. It's been a week since the entrance exam, and he expected the result to come today. His mom had been very happy when he told her that exam had been very easy and he had also saved many other students there. Aizu, it's here. The result is here, his mom's voice echoed through the whole room. Izuku quickly stood up from his seat and rushed outside to see his mother standing outside with an envelope in her hand. He gently took the envelope from her before sitting on the couch in the living room. You are not gonna see it alone first? Sonya asked as she approached Izuku, who shook his head with a smile, before saying, No, Mom. I want to open it beside you. So, come on. Sonya smiled, hearing her son, and sat down beside him. Izuku tore the envelope, and from it came a disc which had a button on it. Izuku pressed the button on it, and a projection started which showed All Might in it. All Might? Both Sonya and Izuku were surprised to find All Might in the result video from the U.A. Ha ha ha. I am here. Young Shinon. If you are thinking what I think you are thinking, then you are absolutely correct. I have joined the U.A. faculty and have become their newest teacher. All Might said in the projection with a big smile while Izuku and Sonya nodded. Young Shinin, You have completely crushed the exam by your strength alone, and have placed first overall with a score of 94 villain points. Sonia smiled proudly before giving her son a tight hug, which he happily returned as he too was happy for being placed at the top. But it doesn't end here, All Might said, making both of them look towards the projection. What kind of hero exam it would be if WE won't grade students based on their heroic actions. You young Shinon have helped several students across the battle center and had also saved a girl from the 0-pointer, earning you a total of 90 rescue points. Congratulations, young Shinon. With a score of 184 points, you have taken the first position and have broken my old record of 130 points. Welcome to your Hero Academia. And no, Uraraka didn't approach present MIC regarding Izuku's points because she, along with other participants, had seen how Izuku had dismantled every robot he had came across. The projection ended afterwards, leaving both the mother's son duo surprised. Yes, I broke the All Might's record, Izuku yelled with his fist rocketing upwards while Sonia smiled proudly at her son. Even though Izuku knew that he was certainly very powerful than even All Might, still it brought a next level of happiness and proudness to him when he heard that he broke his idol's and the current symbol of peace's record by around 50 points. Suddenly, Izuku remembered about Shinso, so he quickly picked up his phone and called him to ask about his result. Yo Shinso, you received your result yet? Izuku asked as he entered his room and sat down on his chair. Yeah, thanks to your advice. Got into the hero course with a score of 56 points, and congratulations, man. So your score on the leaderboard, Shinso said, to which Izuku replied, Don't give me the credit. It was your hard work that got you into the hero course, and thanks. So, what about the party? He asked, to which Izuku chuckled before asking what about tomorrow? I am fine with it, Shinso answered, to which Izuku thought for a moment before saying, all right, then I will send you the time and meet application today. Shinso replied with an okay, and then they both talked about some more trivial things before hanging up. Izuku laid down on the bed with a smile, before closing my eyes as he drifted to the dream world. Breakfast is ready, Sonia called from downstairs to Izuku, who was upstairs in his room, looking at himself in the mirror with a wide smile. During childhood, I saw different children wearing this dress, and now finally I am wearing it, he said to himself before walking downstairs. I'm here, Mom, Izuku said as he sat on the chair opposite to his mother, who smiled at Izuku before saying, You look good in the uniform, Izu, which made Izuku blush. Thanks, Mom, he said with a little embarrassed voice, to which Sonia chuckled. Now eat your breakfast before it becomes cold, Sonia told Izuku, to which he nodded before starting to eat the breakfast his mother made for him. After getting fully ready and having his breakfast, Izuku now stood in front of his door with his mother. After locking their house, both of them got into the car and Sonia started to drive the car to U.A. Looks like today, I don't need to ask how you are feeling, since just by seeing you I can tell that you are shaking with excitement and a little nervousness, Sonia said while driving the car, making Izuku chuckle a bit. You know me, Mom, Izuku simply said before turning his attention towards outside. After driving for a few minutes, Sonia stopped the car in front of the metro station. Izuku opened the window and saw Shinso standing there. Yo, Shinso. Come in, he said, gaining the attention of Shinso, who nodded at him before sitting in the back seat with Izuku. Good morning, Sonia-san, Shinso greeted, which was returned by Sonia with her usual cheery voice. Izuku had planned to pick Shinso up from the nearby metro station every day, when they had met after the result to party. Shinso at first had refused, saying that he can go on his own using the metro, but Izuku didn't budge, making Shinso agree to his request. After driving for a few more minutes while talking, all of them reached UA. Izuku and Shinso exited the car and thanked Sonia, who smiled at them before wishing them good luck, and then drove away. Well, this is it, Izuku said, to which Shinso nodded. They could see several students in the UA uniform walking inside the school. It's a good thing we both are in the same class, Shinso replied, making Izuku nod as they both followed the direction mentioned in the school map. The school sure is big, and the hallways are quite confusing, Izuku said, to which Shinso wholeheartedly agreed to, since the way for their class was pretty long. Shinso said as both him and Izuku stared in surprise at the large door on which 1A was printed. Are you kidding me? Izuku said before Shinso could even open the door, making Shinso look towards Izuku, who sighed before speaking. That blonde kid I told you about is inside. I can hear him yelling due to my enhanced senses. Shinso nodded before opening the door, and true to Izuku's word, in front of him 2 students were arguing with each other. First was a dark blue hair guy with glasses, and the second was the ash blonde hair kid. "What did you say, extra?" Bakugo yelled at Ida, who instantly replied to Bakugo's question with his hand chopping like a robot. "I said please remove your feet from the desk since it is a disrespect for our seniors." And their argument continued on further while everyone watching them with a little sweat dropped. Izuku sighed in annoyance and was about to move to his seat but quickly turned backward and caught the hand that was going to his shoulder. "Well, you have very good reflexes," Uraraka said, making Shinso also look at her. "You are the brown-haired girl I saved," Izuku replied instantly. Uraraka nodded to his words before pointing towards Izuku's hand, which was still holding Uraraka's hand, and said him, "Can you please let my hand go?" Izuku immediately released her hand before apologizing to Uraraka, who shook her head saying it was okay, while Shinso was looking at both of them with an amused look, but before any one of them could continue, they heard a tired voice. A yellow sleeping bag was lying with a messy black-haired man inside it drinking juice. Uraraka and Shinso looked at him with surprise while Izuku narrowed his eyes. He wasn't surprised like the other two since he had already sensed the unknown man. Skill Analyze has been activated. Name, Shota Aizawa. Race, human. Title, Eraserhead. LVL, 102. Strength, 74. Agility, 86. Endurance, 80. Vitality, 81. Intelligence, 85. Sen, 91. Quirk, Erasure. Allows the user to erase all the quirks except transformational ones in their field of vision. My guess was right. The stats of each human is very unbalanced compared to their level. Still, humans can't be considered weak due to them being highly versatile, but in today's generation many few people have a good number of skills in their arsenal. Most of the people today only focus on their quirk or the field that is similar, Izuku thought. "If you are here to make friends, then you better leave," he said before crawling over to the teacher's podium while Shinso, Izuku, and Uraraka took their seats. Izuku was sitting beside the green-haired girl and diagonal to the ash-blonde-hair kid. He looked around and found Shinso just behind Izumi. "It took you all 8 seconds to settle down after my arrival, and it's highly irrational. I am Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years in the hero course," he simply said while students looked at him in shock. "I know it's the first day, but wear this and come to the ground. Be quick," he continued while pulling out a PE uniform from nowhere and then left. Izuku glanced around and found the whole class silently sitting at their places. Izuku glanced towards Shinso, who did the same before nodding. Both of them moved towards the teacher's podium and took a PE uniform for themselves before walking out while the class simply stared at them. After a few moments of both Izuku and Shinso leaving the class, the entire class went into a frenzy state as they took uniform of their sizes. By the time the rest of the class got to the changing room, Izuku and Shinso had already left for the training ground. "You two are time efficient. Good job," Aizawa stated as he saw both Izuku and Shinso coming earlier than he expected. Izuku and Shinso nodded at him before standing together. All 3 of them patiently waited for the class to arrive, and after a few more minutes, the class finally arrived on the training ground. "You all are late. You should be more quick since time is of a very important essence. You should be like these two," Aizawa stated, making the entire class except for few to become a bit embarrassed. "We have wasted enough time already. All of you line up quickly. We are doing a quirk assessment test today," Aizawa stated, shocking the class except for Bakugo, who gained a smirk, and Todoroki and Izuku, who just maintained their stoic expression. "But sir, what about orientation?" Uraraka asked, to which Aizawa simply replied, "You have no time for things like that if you are here to become heroes. In U.A, we teachers have the autonomy to do whatever we want in our class. Now then, Shinon, you were the one who came first in the entrance exam. Come and throw this ball while staying inside that circle," Aizawa said, to which Izuku nodded before stepping forward while everyone's attention fell on him. Izuku could notice some glaze, but he ignored them, but he still couldn't ignore the fact that All Might himself was watching their class performance. Izuku caught the softball that Aizawa threw at him before standing in the middle of the circle. Izuku looked at the softball in his hand before sighing and then pulled back his hand back to throw it. "And here I go." Boom. Sound barriers broke as huge shockwaves were created, pushing all of the Class 1A along with Aizawa almost 5 meters. Some of them even fell to the ground because of the huge shockwaves. Looks like it was too much, even if I held back a lot, Izuku thought as he looked around to see some of his classmates groaning as they picked themselves up. Man, what a monstrous strength, the blonde kid named Denki Kaminari said as he looked at Izuku with shock. He must have a very strong strength to be able to do that, the raven-haired girl named Momo Yorozu said as she also looked amazed and awed by the sheer power of Izuku, but before anyone else from the class could comment, Aizawa butted in. He doesn't have a strength quirk, Aizawa said as he showed the device he was holding to the whole class. 5,450 was showing in the device screen. The new information along with the score of the red-haired boy shocked the entire class. Impossible. He did that with just his physical strength, a black-haired boy named Hantashiro said as he stared wide-eyed at Izuku, who was looking at the sky with his stoic expression. The whole class had went into an uproar as they got the new information. Is it even possible to do something like that without a strength quirk? Izumi thought as she stared at her red-haired classmate in shock. How did he do that without a strength quirk? Bakugo thought with an angry look on his face. Even Aizawa was amazed at the power displayed by Izuku without any strength quirk. He had doubts that Izuku had only telekinesis as his quirk. All Might had his jaw dropped as he witnessed the power of Izuku. Izuku looked at the sky while his ear kept picking on the different voices of his classmates talking about his physical strength. Silence, Aizawa said with his eyes glowing red and his black head levitating into the air, making the whole class shut their mouth immediately. You can go back to your place, Shinon, Aizawa said, to which Izuku nodded before walking back to his original spot, which was beside Shinso, of course. But seriously, if we can use our quirk, this is gonna be so much fun, the pink-colored skin girl said with an excited voice while majority of the class nodded to her words. Izuku glanced towards Aizawa and saw the grin forming in his face. He sighed to himself while thinking, you have done it, girl. So, you think it is fun, Aizawa said with a dark tone, making the entire class gulp in fear. Alright then, let's make it fun. Whoever places last in all the tests will be deemed with no potential and will be immediately expelled from the school, Aizawa continued before showing his grin. What? But it isn't fair, Uraraka said in defense as rest of the class nodded to her words. Unfair? Then, tell me, are natural disasters fair? Is bullying someone weak fair? Are innocent deaths during a villain attack fair? No. This entire world is full of unfairness, and it is our duty as a hero to overcome it and protect others, he said while flashing his quirk. We have wasted quite a lot of time. Now, let's start the test, Aizawa said as everyone in the class got ready. Time skip to the ball-throwing test. Alright, next is your turn, Bakugo, Aizawa stated, to which the ash-blonde kid stepped forward with a smirk on his face. Now I will show all of these extras who is gonna be the number one, Bakugo thought with a smirk plastered on his face as he looked at the ball in his hand. Dai yelled as he threw the ball, making Izumi sweat drop, while the others looked at Bakugo with a weird expression. 705M showed the screen, making Bakugo grit his teeth as he glared at Izuku, who just ignored him. And the last one is Uyagi, Aizawa said as he tossed the ball to the green-haired girl, who caught it with a determining expression on her face. That girl. I can't exactly tell what, but something is different about her. I can certainly feel a connection between us, Izuku thought as he narrowed his eyes at Izumi. Also, the similarity in our looks is something that can be coincidence, but my dragon instincts that there's a connection between us, and I have always trusted my instincts as they have saved my life countless of times, Izuku thought with a serious look on her face. Here I go, Izumi said as she threw the ball with the help of both of her quirks, breaking sound barrier and creating a huge shockwave. 2032M showed on the screen, making the whole class look towards Izumi in amazement. A big and cute smile formed on Izumi's face as she saw her hard work paying off. Meanwhile, All Might also watched Izumi with a proud smile on his face. He was very happy that his daughter had become so strong. Alright then, instead of showing the results of each test, I will combine all the scores together and show you all the combined result, Aizawa said before a hologram formed in front of us showing the ranking of the entire class. 1. Izuku Shinon. 2. Izumi Yagi. 3. Momo Yoirozu. 4. Shoto Todoroki. 5. Katsuki Bakugo. And so on. Good job on coming in 12th position, Shinso. Keep up your hard work and you will soon reach the top 5. Izuku congratulated his friend, who smiled at Izuku. Thanks there, but you shouldn't forget about yourself. You are at the top of our class, Shinso said as Izuku chuckled. Shinon Aizawa called out, making Izuku turn towards him while the attention of the whole class also fell on them. Why didn't you use your quirk in any of the tests? Give me a good reason before I expel you from the school for not giving your all in the test, Aizawa stated sternly with a glare of his own. The whole class looked surprised by the words of Aizawa. Shinon glanced at Aizawa with a clear expression of distaste on his face. Izuku narrowed his eyes at Aizawa, who kept his glare on the red-haired boy. I'm not here to brag about my strength or abilities here, but I will tell you something. If you even want me to get serious, then you need something that will make even All Might fail, Izuku simply stated, with the whole class looking at me in disbelief. The same could be said for Aizawa, who looked at Izuku with a little shocked expression due to his declaration. Nonsense. You are nothing compared to All Might, Bakugo roared as he gave Izuku a murderous glare. Are you sure about that? Izuku said with his red eyes glowing dangerously as the tension in the air started to rise. Izumi nervously glanced between Bakugo and Izuku, but she couldn't argue with the fact that she also considered Izuku's statement ridiculous. Her father was her experienced pro hero and not a normal one at that, but the symbol of peace and the #1 hero in the entire country. Very well then. I will show you the gap between me and you all, Izuku stated before lifting his arms towards school building. His hands started to glow red as the whole campus started to shake, making the entire class along with Aizawa to lose their balance. All Might, who was behind a wall watching the class, looked in disbelief as the whole campus shook. Nezu, who was calmly drinking his coffee in his office, stood with a panic expression on his face as he felt the whole campus shook. He immediately rushed out and saw teachers in the hallway trying to find the exact cause of what was happening. Students started to panic in their class as they felt the tremors. Outside, the whole class looked around with panicked expressions, seeing the whole campus shaking. Let's feel the cloud a bit, shall we? Izuku said with a smirk before suddenly the whole campus lifted from the ground. The entire Udota campus got uprooted from the ground due to a single student. People across the street recorded the situation with shocked expression as they saw the whole Udota campus flying upwards. The police tried to contact the Udota faculty to find out what exactly was going on. Aizawa, All Might, and the rest of the class looked at Izuku with disbelief as they saw the whole campus fly upwards. That's enough, young Shinen, All Might said as he came out of his hiding spot, making everyone turn towards him. Izuku glanced at All Might and then Aizawa before nodding, and then gently the whole campus started to move back. The whole campus shook as it touched the earth's surface, making everyone lose their balance once more. What exactly is happening? Midnight said as she arrived outside with the rest of the Udota faculty. ZM. That was too much, Izuku, and we both know that, Shinso said to Izuku, who just sighed as they both walked towards a locker room. The situation had calmed down after half an hour when everything was explained. Izuku was scolded for what he had done and was also given extra homework. Izuku had accepted all the punishment quietly since he also knew what he had done in the heat of the moment. But that was honestly so cool, Izuku. I didn't knew that you were so strong that you could lift the entire Udota campus, Shinso said with amazement in his eyes as they entered the boys' changing room and found rest of the boys inside talking with each other. But as soon as Izuku walked in, everyone turned towards him, making Izuku a little uncomfortable. Izuku ignored all of their gazes and started to change out of the P.E uniform. Hey Shinobro, what you did outside was so cool, the red-haired boy Kirishima said as he approached Izuku. Yeah, I don't think any pro hero can do something like that. Leaving the part that you did it so effortlessly, Kaminari commented as he was still in disbelief regarding what had happened outside. But seriously, how are you so strong, man, despite being our age? Shiro asked Izuku. Izuku glanced at Shiro before saying, I have trained all my life to achieve this feat. The rest of the boys looked at Izuku with amazement as they continued changing their clothes. Bakugo also couldn't help but see Izuku with amazement as he saw how powerful Izuku actually was. After getting changed, everyone headed back to the classroom and took their seat. I'm still shocked after seeing his power. Even Dad pales in comparison to it, Izumi thought as she looked towards Izuku, who had his eyes closed while leaning at his seat. But regardless of that, one thing that Izumi couldn't ignore was the similarity between her and Izuku. The face structure and the similarity in their name, along with the fact that both of them had telekinesis as their quirk. Even though it could be just her mind or coincidence, but a voice in her heart always told her that something else was in play here. On the other hand, Bakugo was repeatedly glancing at Izuku with an angry look in his eyes, wondering how the hell Izuku was so strong. This thought of Bakugo was shared by the entire class of 1A. After they had saw the true extent of Izuku's power, the door of the class opened, and Aizawa entered the class with a more tired look. "Since today is your first day, rest of the homeroom period is free," he said before going to sleep in his sleeping bag. "Alright then. If we have a free lecture, let's use it to know others," the pink-haired girl named Mina said, to which others agreed. "I have no interest in introducing myself. When time will come, you will get to know about me," Izuku said coldly before going to sleep. "Man, he is cold," Kaminari commented while Shinso looked at his friend with a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I am home," Izuku said as he entered his house. Izuku had told her mom to not come during the afternoon time. "Welcome back, Izu. How was your first day?" Sonia asked as she sat down in front of her son, who was removing his shoes. "It was fine. Nothing too interesting," Izuku commented dryly, making her chuckle before she asked Izuku, "About the morning event at UA, was it you?" Izuku looked at her before focusing back on removing his shoes and said, "If you are talking about the whole Udota campus floating, then yes, but it wasn't my fault. They underestimated me, and I simply showed them the gap between us." Sonia sighed at this but nodded. "All right. Go change quickly. I will set up the dining table," she said, to which Izuku nodded before walking upstairs with his bag. "Take care, Izu, and don't cause any problems," Sonia said to her son, who got out of the car. "Yeah, I know, Mom, and you too, please take care," he said in return, making her smile before she left in the car. Izuku turned towards U.A with a smile as he walked inside. Izuku, he heard a familiar voice making him turn back, and he saw his best friend Shinso running towards him. Shinso had informed Izuku yesterday that his mom had decided to take Shinso to school. Why he didn't come with Izuku today. "Good morning, Shinso. What's up?" Izuku asked as they both walked towards their class. "Nothing much, man, but what about you? Did you get scolded by your mom?" Shinso asked with a grin. "Nah, I explained everything to Mom, and she accepted the answer but told me not to repeat it again," Izuku said with a smile, to which Shinso nodded. "Well, are you excited today? We are gonna have our first heroic class today," Shinso said, making Izuku chuckle. "You bet. I am really excited about that," Izuku said before they both entered the class, making everyone present in the class look at them. "Is there any reason for you to stare at us like that?" Izuku asked, making them turn back to what they were doing. "You know, you should try to relax a bit, Izuku. Not everyone is like them, you know," Shinso said to Izuku, who had a stoic expression. "You and me both know that it isn't that easy," he simply replied. "Good morning, Shinen-kun and Hitoshi-kun," Izumi greeted both of them, to which Shinso returned her greetings, but Izuku just nodded, making her sweat drop a bit. The bell soon rang, and Aizawa soon entered the class, but this time everyone also returned to their seat immediately, making him smile a bit. "Good morning, class. Today we are gonna do a very important task," which is Aizawa said, creating a suspense as everyone tensed up. Choosing the class president, he continued, making everyone sigh in relief. However, an uproar immediately started as everyone started yelling that they wanted to become the class president. Izuku sighed in annoyance. "Silence," Aizawa said while activating his quirk, making the whole class immediately quiet. "I'm gonna take a nap. How you decide depends on you, but I want the class president and vice class president chosen by the end of the homeroom lecture," Aizawa said before laying down on his sleeping bag as he immediately went to sleep. Everyone again started saying their own names for the class president. However, Ida's voice stopped them as he suggested to hold a voting process, which was gradually accepted everyone after he gave his reasoning. "I better not become one," Izuku said to himself as he glanced around the class before Ida's name on the paper, and then submitted it before closing his eyes as he leaned on his seat. "Hey, Izuku, wake up!" Shinso's voice came, waking him up. He looked in the front where he found out that Izumi had the class president with 6 votes while Momo was the vice president with 3 votes. Ida looked depressed, but he was somewhat happy that he had received at least 2 votes. "Alright then, from today onwards, Yagi will be your class president while Yaoyorozu will become the vice president for this year," Aizawa said, to which the whole class nodded before the lectures went as usual. During lunch, Uraraka, Momo, Shinso, Izumi, Ida was sitting with Izuku. Izuku glanced at all of them for a moment before continuing to eat his food. Aren't you sad, Ida-kun, since you wanted to be the class president so badly? Uraraka asked Ida, who shook his head before replying. Even though I wanted to become the class president, I too believe that Midoriya-san is worthy of the position, which is why I voted for Hey, Ida said, surprising Izumi. But then who voted for you? Izumi asked as she looked around and saw everyone shaking their head except Izuku, who was silently eating his food. Who did you voted for, Shinen-kun? Izumi asked in a nervous tone, since she knew there was a huge chance of a cold response or just a straight-out ignore. But to her surprise, Izuku answered to her question normally. Ida, Izuku said, simply shocking everyone. Really? I thought you would have voted for me, Izuku. I thought we were good friends, Shinso said in a dramatic tone, making Izuku deadpan at him before shaking his head, and then replied. Ida appeared to be a good person for the job from my perspective. Really? Thank you for your compliment, Shinen-kun. I will make sure to work hard to be worthy of more of your praises, Ida said with a determined face while chopping his hands, making everyone's sweat drop. But who do you think is gonna teach us during the heroic class after lunch? Momo asked, to which everyone started to rack their brain to guess who will be their heroics teacher. Izuku again glanced at everyone and noticed that Izumi wasn't in a thoughtful expression like others, which meant she knew something. However, he didn't comment on that and just silently ate his lunch, and soon the lunch came to end. Now everyone was sitting in the class wondering who will be their heroics teacher, which Izuku had a guess, which was none other than All Might, and this thought really excited him. Suddenly the door was opened, revealing the number one hero, All Might, who immediately said in his shouting tone, I am coming through the door like a normal person. Izumi and Izuku both internally facepalmed on All Might's entry, while the other students were shocked by seeing the number one hero. Good morning, students. I will be your heroics teacher, and today we will be doing battle training, All Might said, making both Bakugo and Izuku smirk. Bakugo glanced at Izuku, thinking in his mind how he was gonna get praised when he crushes Izuku. But what's a hero without a costume? He said before pressing a button revealing 20 suitcases. Collect your and get change before meeting me at the Mock City, All Might said before rushing outside while everyone picked up their suitcases. Minutes later, everyone walked out of the tunnel in their own costumes, along with Izuku, who was just wearing a black hoodie with black trousers while a dragon symbol was on his back. Aren't that only normal clothes, Shinen-kun? Izumi asked as she noticed the clothing of Izuku, which attracted everyone's attention as they turned towards him. I don't need any special costume due to my endurance being very high, Izuku said, which surprised some while other understood. All Might fake cough, gaining the whole class's attention. All of you will be randomly split into the teams OF2. The scenario is villains have hit a nuke in a building. It is the heroes' job to either capture the villains or touch the bomb, while the villain's job is to defend the bomb or defeat the heroes. There will be a time limit of 20 minutes for each test, he said, to which everyone nodded. So, how are we going to pick up our partner, sir? Ida asked as he raised his hand fully straight. With these, All Might said as he pulled out 2 boxes from which the team were decided. Izuku was teamed up with Momo, and they were on the hero's side, while their opponents were Todoroki and Bakugo. Bakugo's gaze met with Izuku before both glared at each other. Todoroki just looked at his opponents with stoic expression, while Momo looked a little worried. Villains enter the building, All Might said, to which both Todoroki and Bakugo entered the building. So, Shinen-kun, do you have any plan? Momo asked as both of them were standing outside. Izuku shook his head before saying, while keeping his gaze fixed on the building, if you have any plan, Yorozu-san. My ears all open. Momo nodded before speaking. I don't think Bakugo-kun and Todoroki-kun will be willing to work together, which we can take advantage of if we work together. Izuku nodded at her, and according to him, it was a good plan, as they could easily defeat them if they gang up on them while they are separated. Heroes may enter the building now, All Might's voice echoed, came out of the speaker, to which they entered the building. Izuku's senses immediately widened to maximum as he sensed the danger just around the corner. Dodge, Izuku said before pulling Momo back as an explosion occurred where Momo was standing a moment ago. Man, Bakugo, that was not manly at all, Kirishima said as he saw the sneak attack of Bakugo. Well, currently he is a villain, and a sneak attack is a good type of attack to take down your enemy, All Might replied to Kirishima, who nodded before looking at the screen. That was a good one, Bakugo, Izuku replied. Shinen-kun, would you please let me go? Momo's voice snapped his attention to Momo, who he was still hugging tightly to his chest. "Oh yeah, sorry about that," he said as he released a blushing Momo. No problem," she replied, still blushing at the fact of feeling Izuku's hard muscles. "I will crush you here and will prove that I am the strongest," Bakugo said with a smirk before launching at Izuku, who just yawned as Bakugo froze in midair. "You know you must never underestimate your opponent or get too cocky, or you will end up in a situation like this," Izuku taunted Bakugo, who growled at his words as he tried to move. Momo just watched from sidelines as Izuku took care of Bakugo without lifting even a single finger. "And now you are out," Izuku said as tied the capturing tape around his hand. "Young Bakugo has been captured," All Might's voice echoed around the building, surprising Todoroki, who didn't expected Bakugo to get captured so early. "No way, that was too easy. Shinon captured Bakugo in seconds," Kaminari said in surprise. "But it was expected if we look at the powers he showed yesterday," Asui said, to which the others nodded. "He has telekinesis like Izumi, but it is way much stronger. I don't think even Inko can watch young Shinon in her prime," All Might thought in awe. "Katsuki is going to be very angry afterwards," Izumi thought worriedly when she noticed her childhood friend getting defeated without a sweat by Izuku. "Now that Bakugo is out of the way, I can end this in one attack," Todoroki said in a cold voice before placing his hand on the ground, and in 2 seconds the whole building froze in ice. The whole Class 1A's eye widened at the power displayed by Todoroki's single attack. "Man, I am feeling cold all over here," Mineta said as he rubbed his shoulder. "You are right there, dude. Todoroki-kun's attack is way too cold," Zero said as he also rubbed his shoulder to warm himself. Meanwhile, both Momo and Izuku's feet were frozen in ice as the temperature had dropped by below, and since Mom's costume only covered few parts of her body, she was most vulnerable to the hypothermia or frostbite. Izuku glanced at Momo, who was shivering. He instantly smashed the ice by his legs and started to walk towards Momo before smashing the ice she was trapped in and then tightly hugged her, making Momo blush intensely. However, soon she started to feel warm. "The cold is leaving and my body is getting so warm, but how is that possible? The heat is definitely coming from Shinen-kun's body," Momo thought in confusion, but didn't rejected the warmness Izuku was radiating. "How are you feeling? Is your body temperature normal now?" Izuku asked as he looked at Momo, who was still hugging him. "Why yeah. Thank you very much," Momo replied with a large blush on her face. Honestly, Izuku wasn't any better as he was barely able to contain the blush on his face which had formed due to Momo's rack pressing against him. "Here, cover yourself with this," Izuku said before handing over his hoodie to Momo, who blushed seeing Izuku in just undervest as his large muscles could be seen. But what about you? Aren't you feeling cold too?" Momo asked, to which Izuku simply shook his head before speaking. "Don't worry, I don't feel cold. Moreover, hurry up since time is running out." Momo's eye widened as she instantly wore the large hoodie. "You can create yourself some warm clothes for legs to protect yourself from getting hypothermia," Izuku spoke, to which she nodded before creating warm pants. Can you please cover me with your back while I am wearing the pants?" Momo asked Izuku, who nodded before standing in front of her as a shield with his back facing her. Momo quickly wore the pants she made. In the observation room, Mineta was crying on the floor since he wasn't able to see Momo wearing clothes as Izuku hid her with his body. "But anyways, look at those muscles. He is so hot," Mina said while drooling. "F it, why is he getting all the attention of girls?" Kaminari said while anime crying, while Kirishima chuckled awkwardly seeing all the commotion going around the room because of Izuku. "We should enter discreetly to avoid being DT." Momo was cut off when Izuku knocked the door out of its hinges before entering inside casually with his hands in his pocket. "What? Why did you created so much noise?" Momo asked as she also followed Izuku and found Todoroki in front of the bomb staring at them in surprise. "I didn't think both of you would be able to take on my attack," Todoroki said before launching ice at them. However, the ice stopped as soon as it was about to touch either of them, surprising everyone. "I'm getting so bored here," Izuku said loudly before starting to walk forward to Todoroki, who again sent a big ice attack towards Izuku. However, the moment it touched Izuku, the ice broke into pieces, shocking Todoroki, who now started to panic. "Why don't you use your fire, Todoroki?" Izuku asked as he continued walking forward. However, instead of answering, Todoroki took a deep breath and was about to launch a very large ice attack, but suddenly he fell to the ground. Izuku was confused at first, however, his eyes soon found an injection on his neck, making him turn towards Momo, who had a gun on her hand. "Thanks for the help, Rozu," Izuku said, to which she nodded with a smile before Izuku walked forward and touched the bomb. The heroes team win, All Might announced, making Izuku smile on his first victory, but honestly he was very bored. He expected the U.S. students to be very powerful or versatile. However, he soon found out that the gap between him and them was too much. "I liked our first hero class," Shinso said as he walked outside with Izuku, who nodded at his words. After Izuku's match, Todoroki was transported to infirmary while Bakugo had been silently sitting in just a single place. All Might had talked to him before bringing him back to the observation room. After Izuku's match was Shinso's watch, where he was paired up with Koda and was against Kirishima and Kaminari. However, since Shinso had refused to tell his quirk during the introduction, they didn't know his quirk, which Shinso took advantage of before controlling both Kirishima and Kaminari, which led to his win. Many of our classmates were surprised by his quirk and praised him for having such a strong quirk, which made Shinso happy. "Hey guys," a cheerful voice stopped them as they turned around and found Uraraka standing there along with Ida and Izumi. "You both are going to the station, right? So, why don't we all go together since we are also going there?" she said, to which Izuku and Shinso looked at each other before nodding. All of them started to walk together while talking except Izuku, who walked a little behind them alone. Izumi saw this and slowed down as she started walking beside him, making Izuku raise an eyebrow. "I am sorry if I sound rude asking this, but do you dislike social interaction?" Izumi asked, to which Izuku sighed before shaking his head. "No," he simply answered without giving any reason, but since he didn't said anything about his reason, Izumi decided to not dig more in the matter and tried to talk with Izuku regarding different things. However, most of the times, the conversation was one-sided since Izuku only gave short responses. "I am home," Izuku called out to his mom, who came out to greet him. "How was your school, Izu?" she asked as Izuku sat on the couch. "It was good. We got All Might as our heroics teacher, and we had battle training today in which I won," Izuku said in a little proud voice, making Sonya chuckle. "Anyways, Mom, I'm planning on visiting the dungeon on the upcoming weekend," Izuku informed his mother, who looked at Izuku for a moment before nodding. "But make sure to be careful. I don't want you to get injured." "All right," Sonya said, to which Izuku nodded. "Well, I guess this is it. I can feel it from here only. The aura emanating from that direction is so overwhelming. The boss is going to be very tough to defeat, that's for sure, but I have faced everything up till now with confidence, and this is no exception," Izuku said to himself as he stood in the middle of a forest with snowfall going on. "Let's do this," he said before dashing forward to a group of ice bears. A sword suddenly appeared in his hand, which he swinged at the upcoming beast in front of him, and in a single slash, the whole body was perfectly cut in half. After 10 minutes, Izuku was standing in the middle of several sliced bodies of ice bear while looking at the sword from which vital fluid was dripping. "No matter how many times I use this sword, it amazes me. Its sharpness is on a whole other level," Izuku said in amazement before starting to walk forward. "All right now, what do we have here?" Izuku whispered as he crouched behind a tree while observing 2 small blue dragons. Dragons, which probably means that the boss would be a dragon as well. "The battle surely isn't going to be easy at all," Izuku said to himself before jumping in front of both of them. The 2 dragons' eyes widened in surprise as their eyes fell on the intruder. "A human? No, you are a dragon as well," one of the dragons spoke, surprising Izuku. "You can speak?" Izuku asked in a surprised tone, to which the other one nodded before speaking yes. "The highest level of monsters have the ability to speak, but regardless of that, don't you know that this is the territory of the ice dragons?" "Ice dragons?" Izuku tilted his head in confusion when he heard the term. "Wait, you don't know what ice dragon is? Are you a rogue dragon?" one of the dragon asked as both of them got ready for attack, which sent Izuku into a late mode. "I don't know what the hell you are talking about, but I am not here for some chit-chat. I am here to defeat the dungeon boss," Izuku said before assuming a battle stance. "You dare even think of challenging King Marcellus? We will make sure to make your death as painful as possible," one of the 2 dragon said before slamming his palm on Izuku. But Izuku, due to being in human form and having great agility, was able to dodge the attack easily and slice the legs of one of the dragons, earning a painful roar from him. Die Human, the other dragon, said before launching a blue beam on Izuku, who dodged. The beam instantly froze the tree it landed on. Izuku glanced at the frozen tree before focusing on the two dragons, out of which one was injured, but it still launched ice beams on Izuku. Izuku dodged all of their attacks before transferring some of his mana into the sword, making it glow bright red. Special technique. Z/Izuku called out before vanishing from the vision of the two dragons, sending them into panic as they started to look around for Izuku. However, soon they felt an unimaginable pain as a red blur cut through their bodies in Z formation, and soon Izuku reappeared in front of them with vital fluid dripping from his sword. "It's over," he said as he saw the two dragons collapsing into the ground. "It was easy, but judging by our talk, I can safely assume that there is a whole dragon race in which they are decided into different types, with probably a ruler like this Marcellus one they talked about," Izuku said to himself before swinging his sword, which removed the vital fluid from the sword. Just as he was about to walk away, a light coming from the body from both of the dragons caught his attention. Izuku immediately returned back to their bodies and found two glowing crystal ball. Skill Analyze has been activated. Item Name, Dragon Core. Class, Mid-Level. Description: Dragon Core is a compressed ball of energy which appears after a dragon dies. It contains 70% of the energy of the dragon from which it came from. It can be absorbed by another dragon to significantly boost his or her strength. However, the amount of energy that can be absorbed depends upon the physical capability of the dragon that is going to absorb the core. No way. This is so amazing. Let's try this, Izuku said with sparkling eyes before holding both the crystals in his hand. And then suddenly, he started to feel the energy from the crystals starting to go into his body. His whole body gained an outline of red color as he received the energy from the cores, and after a few minutes, both the cores shattered into pieces. That was amazing. Even though they were much weaker than me, I still feel refreshed after absorbing those, Izuku said before starting to walk away. So, that's where this king resides, Izuku said as he stood a little far away from a very large frozen ice palace. Izuku started to walk inside and saw that the whole palace was empty with no guard, which confused me, but he didn't let his guard down for even a second. Soon, he found the throne room, which had a very large door. He pushed it a little and it automatically opened, revealing a giant hall with a large frozen ice throne at the back of the hall, on which was sitting a white-haired boy with blue hairs with a smirk on his face. "Well, looks like our guest is finally here. I have received some news regarding a rogue dragon entering my kingdom, and looks like it was true," the boy said while still sitting on the throne, while Izuku stood in front of him watching the boy with narrowed eyes. "I see. So, you already know of my presence here in your kingdom. Anyways, it looks like you already know why I am here," Izuku said to the boy before using his Analyze skill on him. Name, Marcellus. Race, Dragon King. Title, Dragon King of Winter, the Blue Dragon King. LVL, 552. Strength, 565. Agility, 500. Endurance, 601. Vitality, 576. Intelligence, 523. Sen, 557. Izuku gulped audibly as he saw the stats of his opponent with wide eyes. "Looks like you figured out the difference in power, bet," when Marcellus spoke with a smirk. Izuku gritted his teeth hearing this. He knew that the chances of coming out of this battle alive is almost zero, but still he isn't going to give up no matter what. Izuku relaxed his body before releasing a sigh and then pointed his sword towards Marcellus with a determined expression before speaking. "Dragon King Marcellus, I challenge you to a battle." Marcellus's smirk widened hearing this, and he stood up from the throne before walking forward. "You are a Dragon King, aren't you? But you are still a newbie. However, I certainly am impressed by your determination. So why don't you properly introduce yourself?" he spoke. "I am Izuku Shinon, the Dragon King of Destruction, also called as the Red Dragon King," Izuku spoke, to which Marcellus nodded before summoning his own sword. "The Red Dragon King, ho. Very well, then let's start with a sword battle," Marcellus before directly appearing in front of Izuku. It's been 2 hours since the fight has been going on between two swordsmen. Izuku lunged forward, aiming a thrust at Marcellus's midsection. With effortless grace, Marcellus sidestepped executing a precise parry that deflected Izuku's blade harmlessly to the side. Before Izuku could recover, Marcellus delivered a swift riposte, the tip of his sword grazing Izuku's cheek, a stark reminder of his superior skill. Undeterred, Izuku attempted a feint, hoping to catch Marcellus off guard. But Marcellus saw through the deception, countering with a flourish that not only neutralized the attack, but also showcased his mastery. His movements were a blend of economy and elegance, each strike deliberate, each defense impenetrable. The clash of steel echoed through the arena as Marcellus pressed his advantage. He maneuvered Izuku into a defensive stance, dictating the pace of the fight with calculated strikes and strategic footwork. Izuku's responses grew increasingly desperate, his attacks more erratic, while Marcellus remained composed, exploiting every opening with surgical precision. In a final, decisive move, Marcellus disarmed Izuku with a deft twist of his wrist, sending Izuku's sword clattering to the ground. He leveled his blade at Izuku's throat, signaling the end of the duel. The outcome was clear. Marcellus had dominated the fight, his superior technique and unwavering composure leaving no doubt as to his prowess as a swordsman. You are strong, but you are far from defeating the other Dragon Kings who have hundreds of years of experience. Nevertheless, it was a good fight, Marcellus said before his blade vanished, surprising Izuku. Why you aren't going to kill me? Izuku asked in a surprised tone as Marcellus sat at his throne before chuckling. No, I am willing to let you go and even train you in becoming more stronger if you ally yourself with me and my kingdom, Marcellus said while Izuku sat on the ground with a thoughtful expression. His mind was working at an incredible speed as he weighed the pros and cons of the situation. After thinking for a few minutes, he sighed before speaking. Very well, then I guess I am your new ally from now on. Marcellus smirked hearing this before speaking. Good choice. Now then, rest here in the palace. I will call the maids and healers so that they can bring you to your full health. No need, Izuku said before pulling out strong healing potions from his inventory. You have a pocket dimension of your own? Marcellus asked in a little surprised tone. Izuku nodded as all of his injuries healed instantly along with his stamina. I will be going back now since I am not from this world, Izuku said. I already expected you being from another world because appearance of a new Dragon King would have surely caused a havoc in this world, Marcellus said, surprising Izuku. I see. Very well then. I will see you later, Izuku said and was about to leave the dungeon, but his instinct fled for a moment before he caught a small circular object thrown towards him by Marcellus. Take that. It is a communication device that uses mana as the source of energy. You and I can contact each other anytime using this, Marcellus said, to which Izuku nodded. I would have liked to stay and know more about this world, but there is an urgent work in my world which I have to do. So, I will be visiting you next time and learn more about this world, Izuku said as he put the communicator in the pocket. Wait a minute. I have something else for you too, Marcellus said before disappearing, to which Izuku raised an eyebrow. After a few moments, Marcellus reappeared in front of Izuku with a glowing blue circular object which made Izuku's eye to go wide. And no way. A mana core. The mana this core is emitting is off th charts, Izuku said with wide eyes as he looked at the glowing core in Marcellus' core. That's right, because this is the core of one of our ancient king, Dracius, the legendary dragon of winter, Marcellus replied with proud-filled voice. Legendary dragon? Izuku asked since he hadn't heard that title before, to which Marcellus replied, legendary dragon are the next class of dragon after Dragon Kings, and up till now in the entire history, there have been only 5 legendary dragons. They must be powerful as hell, Izuku muttered when he heard Marcellus reply. Anyway, here. This is for you, Marcellus said as he handed the dragon core to Izuku's, whose eyes widened to inhuman level in shock. Why are you giving me something so powerful and precious? Izuku asked in disbelief, to which Marcellus chuckled. Well, you are going to be my ally and I need you to be strong. Moreover, I haven't used this myself because it is currently out of my reach, but something tells me that even if you are weaker than me, you will be able to completely absorb it, Marcellus said while Izuku just stared at him in disbelief. But what if I decide to betray you using this power? Izuku asked, to which Marcellus pulled out a piece of paper before passing it to Izuku. This is a blood oath agreement in which we will take verbal oath which will automatically get printed in this, and then we will sign on it by our blood which will complete it. If either of us decide to break this agreement, it will result in immediate death, Marcellus said, to which Izuku gulped. After a few minutes, Izuku and Marcellus were shaking hands with each other as they had just completed the Blood Oath agreement. All right then. We'll see you later. Izuku Marcellus bid his goodbye, which was returned by Izuku, who then teleported away. So, this was the end of part 2 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.